not thousands of years old, right? I mean, the Mayans are still living, breathing, existing people. And a lot of these sites were active 600 years ago. And, up until the time that the Spanish arrived on the scene and changed everything. But a lot of them shifted and moved as well, because there was a lot of periods of drought and a lot of things. So the way that we see these sites now are very different in terms of what I was saying in the UK, where I feel like Stonehenge was surrounded by trees. Like I feel like there were, trees within the vicinity. A lot of these Mayan sites had been completely cleared because they were farming. They were growing maize and they were growing squash and beans. And so they had completely cleared the land and then now the jungle has come back and taken over, hundreds of years later. But interesting, these old sites, how, there's different stories. But again, for me, I'm always going to go back to on the monolithic sites, when you're doing a paranormal investigation, if you're getting answers in English, I'm having a bit of a conundrum with that. I always feel like if you're picking up on something, it's later residual energy or later, perhaps, maybe there's a spirit there, but it's not of the time that the site was functioning as it would have been in ancient times, in whatever you want to call it, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age. So yeah, I mean, again, as we do more and more investigations, I think you learn more and more things every single time that you go out on one, right? And if you haven't had an opportunity to do an investigation in another country where there's another language, but I mean, here at home, being on an indigenous site, it's the very same thing. I do not get messages from indigenous people in English. So, they didn't know English at that point when I feel like I'm connecting to them, right? They weren't, some of these images that I receive, some of these people that come forward, I think are, 400, 500, 600 years ago. They're not within the last couple of 100 years. Right. And even if they were in the last couple of 100 years, we would still probably see some still speaking their language until we get to the mid 1800s. And then it's just, from there, we won't even get into that discussion. Right. Yeah. So, that's something different altogether. But in terms of monolithic sites, if anybody else has had an experience out there, we'd love to hear about that. That would be something interesting. Rachel did want to talk more about Stonehenge, but unfortunately she's not here. So, maybe we'll plug that in on a future show and she can give us more insight into, what, if she'd been into Stonehenge and if she'd picked up anything there. When I was there on an archaeological purpose, so I wasn't exactly going around with, I'm always open to the energy, but at the same time, we were there on a learning journey. So, so it wasn't quite the same when you've got 120 other archaeology students all, clamoring around, talking and babbling and, going, wow, this isn't as big as I thought it would be. I think that was sort of hands down the most common comment.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, it's not as big as I thought it would be. But anyway, I guess we've kind of chewed up our hour again today. Yeah. So, well, okay. So what do we want to do next week? I know Rachel, let's, cross our fingers that Rachel is feeling good and she has a good day.
How about we talk about some of the haunted locations in the Old South?
In the where?
In the Old South.
Oh, in the Old South.
New Orleans,
Savannah.
Many haunted locations down there.
I can chit chat about my experiences in New Orleans and south of New Orleans. So I've got a couple of stories.
Yep, I can chat about Savannah.
Yeah, Savannah's pretty spectacular too. It's got some interesting energy. I've been through a number of places in Mississippi. Yeah, Georgia. Yeah, there's a whole different kind of energy down there.
Oh, yes, there is. Yeah.
Especially for us, I think, because we're not of that mindset. And I'm not pinpointing a mindset, but we're not, it's not a cultural norm for us, the South. When I go to the South, I feel pretty comfortable when I'm there in New Orleans and in South Louisiana now. I understand everything. I've been, 15 years in. I should hope I have some grasp on it. But going back in time and talking about some of those things too, yeah, we can certainly touch on that. So I will pass that on to Rachel, and hopefully she's with us next week. And I'll be bright-eyed, bleary-eyed. I put my glasses on because my eyes are so tired from looking at the computer screen at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Teaching. But yeah. So, anyways, we will do that. And I guess that's kind of it for today. So we'll say bye, everybody.
Well,
And
be safe,
yeah,
everybody.
we'll be back next week and we're going to chat about, I guess, hauntings in places like Savannah and New Orleans and maybe
Haunted
even
Old South. Yep.
the South. Yeah, Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some interesting stories out of all of these locations. So we'll pick up from there. And other than that, we will say goodbye from down the rabbit hole for today, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Oh, there we go. I don't know what I'm doing today.
That's because you were up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Different than any other day.